Welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is season 5, episode 13. My name is Adil Ahmad, and I have Misophonia. A couple days late this week, but better late than never. This week I'm talking to Elektra, a clothing designer and mother recently moved to LA, although at the time of this interview she was living in Philadelphia. She talks about being a child of divorced parents, with one of them being particularly dismissive of her misophonia. We talk about putting off having her own child for a while due to misophonia, working on anger, eating disorders, using mimicking, and the importance of being taken seriously. A really great episode, and I encourage everyone to also check out her online shop for her brand, Unknown Apparel, at unknownapparelshop.com. The links are definitely in the show notes, and I'll be tagging it on our Instagram. I'm a big advocate for supporting other misophones in their businesses and creative projects, so please check it out. Remember, you can find this show on Instagram at Misophonia Podcast, also on Facebook and Twitter and sometimes TikTok. If you like this episode or any episode, please, you can help by leaving a quick rating or review wherever you listen to the show. Spotify now also lets you leave ratings, so it would really help us get up in their algorithms if you rate us there. All right, now here's my conversation with Elektra. Elektra, welcome to the podcast. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here.
So, maybe first we can start off with kind of like roughly kind of where in the world are you?
I'm currently living in Philadelphia, but I'm from California originally.
Oh, okay. Which part of Cali? Just out of curiosity.
San Francisco.
Okay. Yeah, I was there for like 16 years.
Oh, wow.
So I know the area quite well. But very cool. So now you're in Philly. So what do you do out in Philly?
I'm not doing much. My husband and I moved out here to kind of try something new, and he got a job that worked out for him. So we've kind of just been staying here for that. But we just had our son 4.5 months ago. So we're planning on moving back to California, actually.
Oh, okay. Is that where maybe family is? And
yeah, exactly. Both of our families are back there.
Yeah. That makes sense. I guess maybe let's talk about misophonia wise. Like, were you apprehensive at all about having a child? And there's a couple of different angles. There's like getting triggered by the child, but then also, worrying about is misophonia
having
can be developed? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all of the above. I think it's really like my misophonia definitely stopped us from having a kid for a very long time because of my triggers. I have severe misophonia, so for as long, working on my anger has always been something that I've been doing. Just kind of just working on not being angry. So like, you don't want to be like that around a child. And so I'm 34. I've been having this since as long as I can remember, since I was a kid. And I'm trying to remember exactly what I was trying to say, because obviously I heard something and I had to go and turn the fan on higher. But so it's been a while that I've been getting myself together, and I do still get triggered, but my husband and I are definitely like working on like, look, this is serious. I need your help in these moments. Like, if this happens, we just got to go. So we're not fighting this, and then he has to feel this energy or anything like that. It's definitely like even the energy, because like, even if I'm tense, I don't want that like energy around my son.
Right.
So it's been a difficult, he's 4.5 months. So the first 3 months he was colic, and that was definitely like the hardest. He's, out of that now, but he was just crying nonstop. And like, I hate to say it, but the crying almost sometimes when he was getting really bad, it sounded like crunching. It was very, very, very difficult. And it's just me taking care of him most of the time while my husband's at work. So, it's been a lot better though. He doesn't just spend all day crying if he's awake anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think they go through phases. And just to be clear, your husband does not have misophonia, right? It's just it's something you guys have been working on together to help accommodate you in
Right.
your
Yeah. No,
yeah.
he doesn't have it. No, he's actually, I feel bad. He loves to whistle. He loves to move around and have a good time and stuff. And I definitely hold that back a little bit.
Yeah. And so yeah, you said you know took you a while to decide to have a kid and you were working on things with your husband. So was this something things that you're working on between you two on your own or with a therapist you know with your own therapist if you have one. I'm just curious like what kinds of things were you doing? Is it just kind of like typical stuff like trying to make sure that he's aware when you're about to get triggered and try to you know um, calm the situation down, or was there anything that you were any help you were getting from the outside, like advice or therapy?
Not really. I mean, it was mostly just me and him. Like, we've been together before we even knew what the word misophonia was. Like, I just remember being in high school, my friends being like, "Oh, her thing," and
Right,
so
right,
when I met him like right after high school, and so I was still just saying, calling it my thing, and then we kind of like I think he found out that it was had a name and other people have it, and so like he really has been there for my whole like kind of journey into make like come I don't want to say like coming out about it, but like being more honest with people, because it used to be something that I would just keep to myself and only close people would know about. But now but then I like kind of opened myself up to people, and people have been really responsive, and it makes it easier. Like I still get embarrassed by it, if I'm talking to people, but just being honest about it, and like even just I hate to use the word educate, but sometimes it is that, like I have two pairs of AirPods that I carry with me all the time. I get made for fun of it. And I always say like I have misophonia. You never know what's gonna happen. Like
right.
um
Yeah, you do never know what's going to happen, and yourself and also the other person.
oh yeah, no, exactly. So um I have searched for therapists that could help me, but I do feel like even with the best ones that I've ever had, unfortunately, they don't really view it as something serious. So they don't understand that like my anger issues are tied with my misophonia. I don't feel like any of my therapists have ever looked more into it, or even I had a therapist that was slightly deaf actually, and she never. I was like, how could you? It's linked to these, other
Right.
issues, like. But okay, fine. It's just me in my head, kind of thing.
So
Um,
are they treating you, and you don't have to get into the other comorbidities too much if you don't want to, but I'm curious, are they treating, so are your therapists treating your anger, like basically all these things that are honestly related to misophonia, but are just not able to make the connection to, or not wanting to make the connection to misophonia?
I feel like it's kind of just not wanting to make that connection and saying, okay, well, I but also it could just be my feelings in that everybody telling me like get over it from a very early age. Like people are gonna eat, just get over it. Okay,
Yeah,
I guess. I just don't expect me to eat Thanksgiving then.
right, right.
Like, but yeah, I don't know if it's just my own personal vibes that I was getting from them, but I just kind of got the feeling that it was like, okay, well, we'll talk about that later. Let's talk more
Yeah,
about these traumas with your mother.
right. Well, yeah, maybe let's re quickly rewind back to then yeah, early days for you. Yeah, as you probably have read a lot of the starts at that kind of late elementary, middle school age with parents, and sounds like that was kind of similar to your story.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember it all like mostly happening when I was with my mom. Like, but I didn't ever knew if it was just my like. I guess maybe my therapists were right. Or I don't know if it's a trauma related thing or if it's just that's when it all started. And she was kind of like the first person that I would ask, like, hey, could you not do that? Or that makes, or I would get physically angry. But as like a 7-year-old, you might want to pay attention to those kinds of like
Yeah,
reactions. But
Yeah.
instead, I mean, she was also very young. Like now that I'm a mom, I'm like looking back and like, wow, I don't know if I would have actually like reacted the way that I wish that she did either. Like she probably just didn't know any better and was just like, no, you have to get over this. This is real life. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's kind of a complicated thing that I'm definitely still working out.
Was there kind of like stuff happening at home that was around that time where you started to like tension or any other kind of trauma that was happening around the time that you around I guess that age? Because it's definitely something that I've heard. It's not necessarily a prerequisite, but there often is like some kind of maybe a death in the family or just a parent that also has anger issues around the house or alcoholic around the time that kids maybe start to notice sensitivities.
Um, nothing, nothing that was like a one-time event or anything like that.
Hmm.
Like since I was a kid, or like since I can remember, again, my parents like were separated, so I would switch off households weekly, and I think that that definitely juxtaposition with being with my dad, it was just him. He's relatively quiet. Like, I mean,
Mm,
it takes a crowbar to get him to talk sometimes. Like, so he's very subtle. And then, like, then going to my mom's house where she is just very vibrant. She loves to sing. She loves to whistle. She loves to just like burst out and to, like, and it was very jarring for me as a child. I remember just being like, shut up, and that being not flying, you know what I mean? So like
yeah.
I think that that's why I kind of started to, remember things like just, I remember just being on the Bay Bridge one time on the underneath going to the East Bay
Yeah. Yeah.
um, from San Francisco, and she was just whistling and I was just in the back seat like crying because I felt so trapped, by those bars. It was like and I was just we were getting on into traffic, and just like I can't tell her to stop because she's my mom. I can't tell her what to do. And I remember that's like the first time I remember being physically
Mm,
hurt, you know.
yeah. Yeah. And did she notice that what was going on in the back, or was she just
She
whistling away?
she did notice and she did it even harder. It was kind of like
Oh.
antagonizing. It was like it was pretty difficult, and like honestly we go through a lot, and I think that she doesn't even know how much pain I was in because she was just living her life, you know what I mean?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's rough. Um, and after that, it sounds like the dismissiveness just kind of continued.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how were some of the ways that you were then acting out? At that age, like I've heard everything, but I'm
Oh,
curious how.
just uh the things that I'm trying to calm nowadays, screaming, crying.
Yeah.
I remember just saying I want my daddy. Like now that I'm like saying it out loud, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Well, his house was very quiet, you
Hmm. Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and in comparison, and all we did was, very like we would go to baseball games. I think those were the loudest things that we would do.
Right.
Like listen to a baseball game on the radio. But I just remember like, yeah, just screaming, crying, slamming doors, punching things. I was a very, very, very angry
Yeah.
child.
Right. 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 And there was no talk about going to therapy at that point or anything like that.
It was definitely not therapist like warranted, I think, especially at
Yeah.
the time,
Okay. Okay. What about at school then? Were you taking a lot of this anger at school too? Either maybe being triggered or just kind of acting out.
I Yes, I definitely was known for the person for telling on anybody who had gum or food in their desk. I did not care. I would definitely tell on them.
You are many people's heroes. Even though you
Yeah.
probably didn't get treated the way we hope
Oh
you
no, I did
would,
not
but
get treated. And
yeah.
people loved sitting behind me popping their gum. Like the popping gum, I remember it was like so popular at the time, like I don't know what it was just about being a cool kid and having your gum and popping it, like the when you suck in and it's like that extra like pop, and it's just
Unfortunately, there were a lot of 80s movies and 90s movies with that. So
yeah.
I think, yeah.
exactly. And then just the very, very juicy chewing
Yeah.
that's,
Oh yeah.
all of that was very, very popular, and it was difficult. I actually dropped out of school. I mean, speaking of school, I switched schools so many times, mostly because my parents were in different parts of the Bay Area. My dad was in the city, my mom was always in the East Bay.
Hmm.
And so I would switch off pretty much by semester or year where I was going to school. And also, it really helped me because every time I would reset and I'd be like, okay, a whole new set of kids to get to know and like see who is going to be doing what around me. You know what I mean? I don't know why.
Yeah.
It was just
And get
like,
that list in your head. You got to start that list again of like who
yes.
can I go near, who should I be worried about? Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then I started learning like okay, I my parents were letting me go to school on my own, which I was like, okay, great. Then I get to miss first or second period. I don't even need to go to those classes where everybody's shaking their legs because in addition to misophonia, I have misophonia,
Yep.
which I didn't even realize. But yeah, people shaking their legs in the morning time to try to stay awake in homeroom. Skipped that. Skipped all of it. I would come in late, pretty much high, like from weed, because I was trying to self medicate, like
Yeah. Yeah.
getting an edge off. And then, yeah, by the time I was in, I think my 10th grade, 11th grade, I got sent to a continuation school. And then after that, I was just like, I'm
Screw
not
this.
even,
Yeah.
I'm not even showing up anymore.
Yeah. So you didn't graduate from high school or anything?
I got my GED later,
Okay.
which
Okay.
was also
Gotcha.
pretty difficult because I had to go to all these different morning classes and stuff, which I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I walked out on my math test. I got as far as I could and I was like, hopefully this passes.
Yeah. 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 I'm curious. So when you were doing, CBD and weed come up, and that's the kind of thing that the few times I've tried to make me super paranoid, and I've heard that from other guests as well. I'm
Oh
curious,
yeah.
did that help, or did it relax, or did it make you more paranoid? I'm curious. Sounds like it relaxed.
Um, it definitely helped. It definitely relaxed. I was very scared of it for a very long time, but my friend was like, you should really, because I also, in addition, like, I just sound so sensitive right now saying in addition to all this, but also in high school, I was struggling with the way that I was just going through a lot with my home life. In addition, like, in my there was a lot going on at one time, when I was in high school, and I basically became bulimic without me knowing it. It was just kind of more of like my nerves, my chaotic atmosphere. I just kind of forgot to eat. And so when I would eat, it would make my stomach hurt and I would throw up, or like
Mm,
I'd get upset super easily. My stomach would hurt. I'd throw up to try to make it feel better. I didn't really have a lot of people around me who were like taking care of me. So nobody was like pretty much there to help. So I was kind of just figuring things out for myself. And then a friend was like, you should smoke weed and then you'll probably
mhm,
eat. Thank God, because I gained like 20 pounds, like, which I really needed. I was just
mm,
like, I look at photos and I'm like, wow, I was very sick then.
mm.
Um,
And
and yeah, it helped a lot.
and would you think the misophonia? I know you had other stuff going on. Do you think the misophonia affected your eating disorder as well? I've heard people, um, some people equate or relate the two in the context of like they try to eat really quickly to get away from the table. This might be totally different than
Right.
what you were going through, but I don't know. I'm just trying to say sometimes they are
No,
related.
no,
So I'm just curious.
no. I mean, it definitely is related. I still think it's related today. Like I have really bad eating habits. It definitely has a lot to do with my misophonia. I think something again going back to my son. Like I want him to have healthy eating habits. Sit at the table with us, like eat 3 times a day. Um, a lot of family values I feel like I missed out on because I was hiding from
Yeah.
everybody. And also because I felt like I wasn't being listened to, respected, or cared about. So that also, and so I kind of I still am struggling with my eating habits and keeping up with it. I feel like just because it correlates with all of my fears.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, those are, I mean, you missed out. Well, yeah, you had a distorted, I guess, um, introduction to those basic habits. So it's
Right.
understandable that it probably takes a while, but it's good that you're being aware of that for your son. So that's great. Did you have siblings when you were at home there, or was it just you and your mom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my mom, at my mom's house, I had my brother, and then my sister was later born, like right before my mom moved out of state. At my dad's house, I now have a brother and a sister, but that kind of happened after I left the house. After,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And so then, okay, so let's say, yeah, you got out, you got your GED. I forget what it's called around here, but um, then you're, I guess, out in the world. How did a lot of us, our triggers start to multiply? Is that kind of what happened to you? But for a lot of people, though, also the kind of when they become first independent, they kind of forget about some of their misophonia. Tends to be kind of like a chill period. I'm curious, kind of what happened post kind of like high school.
No chill period. No chill period. I wish. That sounds delightful. I would have loved that. I remember friends wanting to like I got my GED and I started going to like taking college classes at CCSF with some of my roommates
Oh yeah.
or like my friends, and they were like, "Hey, we should go to school together." And I'd go, "All right." As soon as we got on Muni, I'd be like, "I'm sorry, I'm putting on my
Oh God.
headphones." I'm
Yeah.
I mean, I know that we're and then being in classes with I started to realize I was like, I can't take classes with my friends because I want to sit in the weird seat, they don't want to sit in the weird seat with me,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to seem like the weirdo like that needs to show up 30 minutes early so that I can change seats about 5 times. um
Was it
I don't
is it
know.
mainly people that were triggering you? Because when you said Muni, I instantly remember the screeching and the through the tunnels and whatnot. I'm curious, like what was the extent of your triggers back then, or now
Natural,
too?
I guess you would call those unnatural sounds, but those are more of like what I categorize as natural sounds, and those don't bother me as
Hmm.
much. Ones that happen, like I guess atmospherically.
Yeah,
The ones that really trigger me are people sounds, and I think that maybe I attribute that to a little bit of like kind of just
an
I
attack.
an attack, but also like I have a little bit of OCD too, where I'm just like I need you to just stop, just stay calm, sit there. Like I hear about Japanese trains where they are like, oh, they don't want you to be, it's like a culture that to be quiet and
Hmm.
sit where you are and just wait for your stop. And I'm kind of like that, where I'm like, why did you bring chips here? This is not a buffet. Why
Yeah,
did you with this? So it's a little bit of like that I need everything ironed out. But also, I mean, it's definitely at the forefront is my misophonia, but I can't stand listening to those things. But also, it's kind of like I don't understand where you're coming from right now by doing
right.
that.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
again, with children, I've noticed as I was growing up, like this has always been the case that children don't trigger me. And I think it's because they have a sense of innocence, when they're eating their chips and they're just like chomping and staring at me and drool's dribbling down their face, it does not bother me for some reason. But if an adult were doing that, I would be imagining really bad things happening to them. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And I've said this on yeah, I've talked about this on the podcast a little bit, but other people have said similar things because I feel like your brain, when it's an adult, your brain feels like this person has the free will to do this, and they're doing this to attack me. But a child, I feel like, especially if it's my own child, like there's no threat, and so
Right.
at least that's what how my brain is interpreting it. They're not seeing it; it's not seeing a threat from a child, whereas
Exactly.
an
Yeah.
adult, you're doing this for some reason, and I can't get you to stop. You're obviously doing it on purpose to hurt me. So
Oh, definitely. I definitely can relate to the you're doing this to hurt me feeling.
yeah. So what were some of your coping mechanisms, healthy or otherwise, around then and then and now? Like you said, you obviously you try to avoid going to class. You avoided classes. Were there other things like headphones, earbuds? You said you were you tried to read at some point, but Yeah, what are some other some of the things you were doing back then? There's not a lot. I mean, there's no cure, as you know.
No, yeah. Well, now I have my two noise canceling AirPods that I
Right,
bring with
right.
me everywhere. But when I was a kid, it was like Walkmans, right? And
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
actually had like different degrees of headphones that worked and did not work well. And
Yep.
I would go through them often. I always had a pouch of batteries in my bag just in case anything were to happen.
Brilliant. Yep.
Yeah,
Very smart.
and I always had my degree of CDs that were like, okay, this is the loudest, so this will, like if I can hear somebody eating on Bart from the other side of the car, that's what this CD is for. You know what
Yep.
I mean? And so definitely music. Music has always helped me. Now that I have noise canceling headphones, I love that because I don't always have to listen to something, which has always
Right.
been something I've always struggled with. Is like, why don't you just listen to music? Well, I don't want to listen to anything, actually.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the problem is that I just want it to be quiet for just a little bit, please. And
Right.
so the noise canceling does not like help everything, but I do live like in Philadelphia. I live in a row house, so my bedroom is right on the street with a busy stoplight. So I have them in constantly. I have a roommate or a housemate. She lives above, and I can hear her music all the time. I've complained a million times. She doesn't care. So I wear my
Mm.
headphones pretty much constantly. I've had ear infections 5 times since she's lived here. And that's probably what I'm like really where my anchor, if you can hear it, is coming from right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's because it's something I'm like still majorly struggling with. And all I'm so headphones definitely. The marijuana did help, but I mean it's not like going to be a huge cure when you're already kind of struggling with depression. That doesn't really help that aspect of it. And I think mimicking has always helped me, which does not sound great to other people when you're talking to them. Like, it's not a nice thing to do. Like, but seriously, when I'm really like all the triggers are hitting me, my husband and I are having a great day walking down the street, but then it's just too many cars are going by, boom, 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 playing loud music that's kind of taking over all of my senses. Plenty of them are going by because it's rush hour, and then this is happening, that's happening. Somebody walks by me eating, and then I just flip out and I start mimicking everybody who's around me, and
Isn't yeah.
that's when I look crazy.
Isn't that crazy? I can't think of any other disorder or any other medical condition where making copying it actually makes you feel better. I can't think
Yes,
of
it
any.
does, and my husband hates that, and I feel really bad. But the mimicking, because he thinks it's an attack on him. That I'm like, when I have to, but I'm like, seriously, honestly, if you I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. So that's something I'm trying to not do as much because I know it hurts his feelings, but also at the same time, it's so relieving to just
Right.
do. It's almost like you're showing them, like, this is how stupid you
Right.
sound,
I will.
but
Yeah.
also at the same time, like, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just trying to get out of my head. Otherwise, it's just going to ring in my ears and into my eyes, and it's just never going to leave.
Right. Have you read the? Are you aware of the research this year from England about the mirroring?
I'm not sure if I read the specific article that you were talking about.
Yeah, there was so. I'll just briefly. Dr. Kumar has been like one of the leading researchers. We're all hoping he cross our fingers that he cracks this soon. But the latest research is that about misophonia is that, or at least one thing they found with MRIs is that if, for people with misophonia, when they're experiencing that rage, watching somebody who is like chewing, our the part of our brain that's going to control our motor neurons, so that the neurons that will actually move our mouth and jaw, they're going crazy, even though our mouth is not moving. And so his one of the suggestions is that they shouldn't be moving like that, but that imbalance between not actually moving and then our neurons going crazy is causing discomfort, and then our mimicking but is satisfying those neurons, and that's why we feel
Hmm.
better. So,
That's interesting.
anyways, that's one of
No,
the
it's really
dynamics.
interesting. I'll have to look into that.
Hmm. Hmm. And I had actually one of the lead researchers on that paper, Dr. Irfan, on a previous episode back in June or something. So that would she's really good at explaining it. And they have got more research planned, and hopefully this all kind of like goes in the right direction. But
Uh,
so yeah,
that's awesome.
with yeah.
I was just gonna say I do look at on I don't know who runs the Instagram, but I do look at like some of the articles that you guys post on there.
Oh yeah, well that's all me. It's just
Oh,
me.
okay.
But
Oh, nice.
yeah, I try to be up. I've got a Google alert, if there's anything good. Usually it's a lot of um, you know, weird UK talk shows, and then some morning show person making fun of Misophonia or something. But sometimes there's some good research out there, so I try to post it.
Oh, that's
Um,
good.
yeah. So then I guess with your husband, you said that um, you guys found out how to name after you were together. I'm curious, how was that? Um, how did that how did it start? Kind of the relationship go? Like in the early days, did you have to tell him right away, or was it something that he witnessed and he stuck by you?
Um, it's funny because I've worked in restaurants for 15 years, which I don't know how I got away with that. But we worked at like a creperie on Haight Street together, and that's how we met. And I'm sure, because it's something that I do often. Like if I get a table that already comes in chewing their gum, I'll give that table to somebody else because I'm like, obviously they can't eat properly now. How are they going to eat properly while I'm
Right.
serving their table? So I'm sure that I probably just brought it up and was like, I can't handle this customer right now. Could you take care of them for me? Or
Yeah.
something to that effect. And something, I mean, I love my husband, obviously, but something I love about him is that he's so like open and understanding to so many different people, and he doesn't really place a lot of judgment. He understands that people have things that make them unique, and I've always felt comfortable being able to tell him things. He's seen me at my absolute worst that I will never tell anybody about, and he still loves me unconditionally. And so it's really nice to have a partner who cares about it. You know what I mean? Like even when it didn't have a name, he still took it seriously. I remember one time we were at Golden Gate Park and we just kept on going everywhere trying to have lunch outside, and there was just nowhere comfortable
Mm.
because all these sounds were happening. And he actually went up to a guy and asked some guy to stop whistling for me. And I was like, that is so weird
Yeah.
and so like out of place, but I appreciate you doing that for me. Like, and I'll always remember that. That was like in the beginning of our relationship, you know what
Hmm.
I mean? And he himself is a whist, and he's like, dude, I understand, it's so fun, but she's got this thing. And the guy was a total dick about it, obviously, but
Oh, yeah.
but it was I mean, this was over 10 years, it was just like 15 years ago, you know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, that's bold going to talk to somebody about whistling. So that's definitely
Oh
I
yeah,
would
I
have said that's a keeper. Definitely.
yeah, no, definitely he is. And he
So
totally understands everything. Sorry, not to interrupt. Sorry. Just when we go to a
no,
restaurant or anything, he's always very, very nice about it.
yeah. And what about other friends? Like now, like in adulthood and stuff. Like you said, you try to be more open about it. And I've heard the phrase from people referring to it as coming out like when they came out to the
Hmm.
world about their about their sexuality. It's a weird thing to say for misophonia, but I've heard it before said that way. But how did now you are you just more open about it? You tell you tell all your friends, try to advocate maybe, or is it just something that is kind of a need to know, but you make sure people know?
Um, it kind of really depends on the situation. Like friends that I've had for a really long time, I'll be like, so that thing that I had, it's an actual thing. Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
that. And then there's like with my family, especially, I love my family. Sometimes they do things that make a lot of noise. Sometimes there's lots of snacks involved. But I love my family. Therefore, I want to be around them. And that's just kind of how I'm figuring it now. Like, if I didn't care about you, I just leave. And that's easy for
Right.
me to do now. You know what I mean? I've been doing it my entire life, but I love you. I want to be around you. Would you please just help me with this? Because I want to be here. So that's how I'm approaching that with my family. With friends, it's kind of just like I'll handle it for like a minute, but not too long. I will say, okay, you know what? Now's my time to exit. Or like with Instagram, for instance, you know, you can be a little bit more anonymous there. I do
Mm.
post all the time about like my misophonia on my stories and stuff like that. And almost every time I do, somebody says, "Thank you so much. I have this too." And I'm like, wow, I didn't know my aunt has it. A friend of
Oh,
mine wrote me. Yeah. And then another, it's almost every time somebody says, "Thank you so much for like telling people about this." I'm like, oh, okay. Like I have friends just because we have misophonia. You know what I mean? Like, and
that's
we
yeah. I'm
found each
always
other.
asked about that, right? Like, have you met anyone with dysphonia, and how did that go?
Oh yeah. I actually had a friend that I worked with too. He was a cook, so I feel like he didn't have to deal with a lot of the triggers that I
Right.
did. But I would talk to him about it, and he said that he didn't have it that extreme, and I was like, "Your parents must like listen to you." And he's like, "Yeah, they've always been super nice about it, and you know, da 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 da." I'm like, "That sounds nice," because you don't seem like you get that upset. But I have like broken teeth because of this.
Yeah. Okay. Was that the low point that you were talking about, or did it go lower?
I'm sure it's been a little bit lower.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of like I'm very proud of my journey upwards. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. What's your Instagram account? Is it public or is it just private amongst family and friends?
It's public. I used to post my photography and stuff like that, but now it's all just my son. It's just my name, Elektra Oliveira. But I do make clothes and design them, and I have another Instagram for that, which is Unknown Apparel.
Okay, yeah. I'll definitely. I mean, if it's okay, I'll
Yeah,
link those in the
yeah, yeah.
show notes and share those.
Please,
And
yeah.
put them
It's
in the. I put them in the Misophonia. The new Misophonia app that I have. I have a whole section on
oh wow.
businesses and businesses by misophones because I just want us to spend money on each other.
Yes,
So,
please. Yes, it's unknown at unknown two underscores apparel. I didn't know I was
cool.
gonna be able to plug that, but yeah, I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, no, this is I'm trying to turn this into as much plugging as possible. So
Yeah, thank you. I do try to talk about it on my. I'm like haven't really discussed it on my business profile that much, but it is something that I kind of want to introduce because it's so freaking difficult. Like I can't even imagine sometimes getting somebody to even help me with something because of misophonia. So like it's a very solitude project for me, and I'm sure a lot of other misophonia people would understand that.
right. So do are you actively you're designing apparel and right now? Like how's that I guess what's your workflow there?
Well, it used to be I used to work pretty much every day. Um, Even if I had like a day job, I would try to get at least something done. I work from home, but right now, after having my son, it's been a little bit harder to find time.
Hmm.
So when my husband works from home, he helps me out, and we're still working on my schedule. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
trying my very very best because it is like it's a blessing to be able to work from home and be around my son all the time, and also like have him experience something so vastly different than what people are used to. You know, mom and dad going to work, and then him going to daycare. Like it would just be very special for me to just have him sit on my lap while I sew, which happens sometimes.
Yeah. So, are you creating one-off pieces, or I should probably do my research before, but I'm
Oh no, it's
curious.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, some are one-off pieces, but I have staple kind of collections because I it's more one collection is geared towards like workwear, so lots of pockets, jumpsuits,
Mm,
and then these like really bold screen printed stripes that I do. I screen print the fabric myself, design, so construct or cut, construct everything. So it's kind of like geared towards servers or people with like really messy industry jobs.
oh
You know,
yeah.
florists. I get. tattoo artists, a lot of people who need like accoutrements all the time because there's tons of pockets. But I'm working on another collection now that's kind of more of the vagabond, the on the run, traveling
Yeah.
aspect instead of being in the workplace. There's a little bit more of a dreamy aspect to this new collection I'm working on.
Interesting. Like that being a vagabond, maybe running away from sounds or having lots of pockets to
Exactly.
store your earbuds and batteries.
A, all of the above.
I mean, joking aside, but I'm curious if like, a lot of, as you may or may not know, a lot of musicians have creative outlets. I'm curious if, is this is one of those things that developed as a kind of a kind of an art therapy for you, as you were living life as a misophone.
I wouldn't be surprised. I do remember like I've always been creatively inclined, but I do think that like it wasn't kind of just like a natural occurrence. I definitely think it kind of came out of my solitude, um, and needing to do something with my hands.
Right, right. Yeah, a lot of us, I don't know if it's chicken or egg, but we end up being a little bit more introverted maybe than most people.
Yeah, exactly. I've actually, my husband, there's like a comic book artist that he really enjoys, and he just recently learned that he has misophonia. And he was making a superhero that has misophonia in his comic book and all these things. And it's always nice to hear. I mean, the guy was talking about like, yeah, art is like a work of solitude and why it works so well with for him with his misophonia. I forget the guy's name because it wasn't something that I looked into, but it was really
Are you
interesting.
are you talking about Jono Diner in Flint, Michigan? Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. I've had him on the
I'd
I've had him on the
have
podcast. He's also he's got comics and he's also a musician.
John O.
Yeah. I can send
Maybe
you a
I'd,
link
I'd have.
after. I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah. Please do. Yeah,
But if there's somebody else, yeah, I'd love to know who that is and maybe reach out. That's
yeah.
really interesting to
I'll
hear.
ask my husband after this and see if he remembers. Like maybe I could just text him really quick.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, very good. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have links to your stuff because I definitely think we should all be kind of promoting or supporting each other financially.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, cool.
My my
Yeah,
husband just wrote me back. He said the name is Kankor.
Cancor. Okay, no, it's somebody else. So that's
C
interesting.
A
I'll have
N
to
K O R.
see NQR. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to, I'll have to see what that's
There you go.
about.
There, one more to the list.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, cool. Okay. Um, yeah. So I guess yeah, I guess yeah, we're kind of hitting about 45 minutes or so. Yeah, I'm curious, is there anything else you kind of want to share, tell people who are listening? A lot of people have bottled things up, but a lot of people had kind of also, a lot of people had kind of challenging challenging childhood growing up. Anything else you want to kind of share with people, tell people, or maybe anything that you want to tell people about your story?
Um, it's like it's so thick and dense with stories. My I feel like my experience because it encapsulates my entire life. It takes over my entire life from morning to night, even sometimes while I'm sleeping. And I think the one thing that really, when I like tapped into, that
Sorry,
is really,
do you trigger yourself maybe when you're trying to sleep? I've heard that from some people, or is it
uh,
maybe snoring from your partner?
no, probably just dream stuff, to be
Oh,
honest.
okay,
People in
okay.
my dream really bothering me. I've woken up from people in my dreams doing things to trigger me.
Fascinating. Okay.
And that's really awful. I have a lot of nightmares, a lot. There's a lot we're
Fascinating.
working on here.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but the thing that I think, having lived kind of this life, lost a lot of people in my life, kind of maybe due to this, maybe due to things that ways I've reacted to things because of this. I think I do want to just like tell people without misophonia that the people around you with it, they love you. And the reason why they're telling you about this is not to be difficult. It's not to be extra sensitive. It's not to be the center of attention. It's because they love you and they want to be around you. Um, so if you just want to take a second to listen and try, it's going to make a huge difference. And
Yeah, we don't want to burn bridges, even though, I mean, we're there because we want to be there. It's not because
yeah.
we're not, we didn't come here to burn a bridge. It's just
Hmm.
something we can't control. Um, Especially if you're dreaming about it. I mean, it's definitely kind of in your subconscious. If that doesn't, if that doesn't explain it, or I don't know what does.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you talked to? Is there any dream therapist or anything to kind of like help with sleeping? Because you don't want to be even more sleep deprived, especially
With
after having a
a
child.
4 month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm not sure, but we are moving like very, very soon, and I'm gonna be looking into getting a what's the therapy? Not behavioral, but
CBT
cognitive.
or yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's cognitive. Yeah, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cognitive
I'd
behavioral
like.
therapy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. There we go. That's what the word is. That's. I'd really like to look into that kind of therapist. When once we move, we're just at. There's a lot of cogs that are kind of moving right now, and I feel like throwing
Mm.
that in there would kind of just mess things up a little bit. So one thing at a time, but that's definitely like something I'm looking into with my new fresh life.
Yeah, well, that seems to be CBT seems to be the leading candidate, at least right now, in terms of doing something about it
One of the people
successfully.
that when I was telling you about the Instagram and people always respond, actually, one person wrote me, and that's when I was sold because she told me I used to have misophonia really badly until I started going to see a
Hmm.
CBT, and She said I'm not cured, but I can do things. And I was like, I see you going out all the freaking time. I see you going to drag shows, this and that, and
Yeah,
that. Like, okay, yeah, I'll try that. I'll definitely try that then.
yeah. I think I've heard that. Yeah, obviously it's not going to cure it, but I think it helps your brain kind of come back to normal. Like
Right.
revert back faster than what happens to us is we're kind of like we're done for the day in many
Hmm.
cases. So
Oh yeah, at the beginning of the day, I'm already done.
yeah, I
Totally.
mean, isn't that yeah, doesn't that suck when you wake up? I usually wake up pretty optimistically, and then yeah, if I hear something, it could be a while before, and then if it happens to snowball, then there's this point of no return at some point.
Oh yeah, a whole day is wasted after at that point. If you can't get it fixed by like noon, one, then the whole day is pretty much ruined.
Do you do anything
But
like? Are
yeah,
you able to? Can you go for a walk or something? I know your housemate's kind of like a nightmare, but how do you kind of try to get back to normal? I guess is it just earbuds and listening to stuff?
in San Francisco, I felt like very free because if anything were to really bother me, I'd go to the least touristy place at Land's End, go to Sutro Baths, listen to the water, listen to no one around me, play in a cave, just be by myself, with a lot of fresh air around me to breathe, like actually breathe. But right now, living in Philadelphia, it's very condensed. And if I leave, somebody's walking past me as soon as I leave my house. Anywhere I go in the neighborhood, there's always going to be somebody around me. I cannot walk far enough for somebody to just not be next to me. And that's been so difficult for me because, like,
Hmm.
I need to be able to just not be around you,
Yeah,
be around anybody, please. Thank
and it's
you.
temporary. It's not like yeah, it's not doesn't have to be a permanent
Exactly.
thing. Like
Yeah.
we're not trying to burn a bridge. As far as yeah, my favorite places to walk were like right around Sutro Baths and Land's End, that little corner. I
Hmm.
know exactly which cave I think you're talking about. So or that little tunnel that's down there. Um,
Yeah, you can walk. You walk all the way down because
yeah, yeah,
nobody walks down because they don't want to walk all the way up. So then you get
right,
to go all the way out. And it's like none of the tourists ever go there. They kind of just stay
right.
central or you can't. But Land's End, Muni. I don't even know which Muni goes there. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
kind of sacred.
Right. Exactly, exactly. Well, cool. Well, yeah, Elektra, thanks for coming on and yeah, sharing your story. And
Of course.
I
Thank you
wish
for
your
doing this.
oh yeah, no, of course, this is great to hear. Yeah, all the experiences you had. And I know a lot of people can relate. And I wish you the best of luck in your kind of your new life back on the West Coast.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elektra. Everyone, remember to check out Unknown Apparel. If you liked this episode, don't forget to leave a quick review or just hit the 5 stars wherever you listen to this podcast. You can hit me up by email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com or go to the website misophoniapodcast.com. Easiest way actually to send us a message is on Instagram at Misophonia Podcast. Follow there, or Facebook at Misophonia Podcast, and Twitter it's actually Misophonia Show. You can support the show by visiting our Patreon page, patreon.com/Misophonia Podcast. Theme music this week is by Moby. And until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.